The next court date is April 1st, 2026. And just when you think you've heard everything in this case, new documents surface that cut straight to the heart of the defense's argument. The prosecution just dropped a bombshell in open court, and it directly challenges the idea that Holly Johnson was acting in self-defense. They're not just arguing about what happened in that moment. They're questioning whether self-defense can even legally apply when you wait months after a conflict and then shoot someone in broad daylight near a school. Today we're breaking down this new transcript and what it means for Holly, for Carlos, and for the pursuit of justice. Before we get into it, this is True Crime Unraveled. If you want legal analysis you can trust, hit that subscribe button on YouTube and follow us on Facebook and TikTok at True Crime Unraveled TV. We see your comments, every single one, and we appreciate this community more than you know. Now let's get into it. For those just joining, let's reset quickly. Romica Meeks was murdered on September 8th, 2025, shot 3 times near her son's school. Holly Johnson was arrested 90 days later in December after initially being released. 3 bond hearings, all denied. Judge Clancy has been clear. Holly is a danger, the evidence is strong, no conditions can guarantee public safety. The last court date was March 3rd, 2026. The next is April 1st. Holly remains in protective custody. Carlos Smith remains free, still giving interviews. And now new transcript excerpts have emerged that change the conversation entirely. Let me read you exactly what the prosecution said in this newly surfaced transcript. This is the state directly addressing the self-defense claim. Before September 8th of 2025, and there is no valid self-defense for waiting 6, 8, 9 months, a year, and then shooting somebody in the middle of the street in broad daylight down the street from a school. This is the prosecution drawing a clear line in the sand. Self-defense law requires an immediate threat. You can't hold onto a grievance for months, then arm yourself, confront someone, and claim you were defending yourself. The timing matters. The location matters. A school zone matters. But then the prosecution goes further. They introduced evidence, People's Exhibit 1 and 2, related to the order of protection that the defense has been leaning on. Here's what they said. People's Exhibit 1 is a document that was actually provided to us by the defense. It's a half sheet for the order of protection, which shows that before Judge Weaver on June 18th of 2025, both the petitioner, that being the defendant, and the respondent, that being the victim in this case, appeared via Zoom. The case was given a date for attorney. Then the prosecution drops the hammer, and then shows, despite the fact that it's been said multiple times that the victim was aware that this order of protection had been granted, that she'd been served, that's not true. Because on July 14th, it says here, petitioner in court, Zoom. Respondent defendant not in court. Default. So it was a default order of protection. This is huge. The defense has been arguing that Romica knew about the order, that she was the aggressor, that Holly needed protection. But the court record shows Romica was not present when the order was granted. She was never served. She may not have even known it existed. That completely undermines the defense's narrative. First, the prosecution's argument on timing. Self-defense requires an imminent threat, something happening right now that reasonably makes you fear for your life. The state is saying you can't take a conflict from months ago, show up at a school where your child's other parent is dropping off their kid, and claim self-defense when you shoot them. That's not defense. That's premeditation. Second, the order of protection revelation. If Romica was never served, if she never appeared in court, if the order was granted by default, then the defense loses one of their key pillars. They've been using that order to paint Romica as a threat. But if Romica didn't even know about it, how could she be violating it? How could she be the aggressor when she was legally unaware? Third, the school zone factor. The prosecution specifically mentioned down the street from a school. Under Illinois law, offenses near schools carry enhanced penalties. The state is reminding everyone that this wasn't just any street corner. It was where Romica had just dropped off her 7-year-old son. Here's my analysis. The prosecution is systematically dismantling the self-defense claim. They're using the timeline, months between the alleged threats and the shooting. They're using the location, a school zone. They're using the physical evidence, multiple shots at close range to an unarmed woman. And now they're using the court record itself to show that the order of protection the defense has been waving around, it doesn't prove what they say it proves. If Romica wasn't served, if she never appeared, then the defense can't argue she was knowingly violating it. They can't argue she was the aggressor based on a piece of paper she never saw. That document becomes irrelevant to the self-defense claim. And think about what this does to Carlos's credibility. He's been out there giving interviews, implying Romica was the problem. But if the court record shows she wasn't even properly notified of the order, what else is being misrepresented? So what do we look for on April 1st? First, how does the defense respond to this order of protection revelation? Do they pivot? Do they try to introduce other evidence of prior threats? Second, any update on the medical records? Do they confirm the chokehold and car door slamming? Third, forensic testing results, DNA, ballistics, gunshot residue. Fourth, and most importantly, any hint of plea negotiations. If the defense starts talking deals, it means they know their self-defense claim is crumbling. The bottom line, the prosecution just took a sledgehammer to one of the defense's key arguments. The order of protection they've been leaning on, it doesn't hold up. The timing they've been relying on, it works against them. And the self-defense claim, it's looking weaker by the day. The question for you, does this new information change how you see the case? Drop your thoughts in the poll and the comments. We read every single one. To our incredible community, thank you. Thank you to our super gifters, our loyal commenters, everyone who keeps Romica's name alive. If this breakdown helped you understand the case better, please like, subscribe, and follow us on Facebook and TikTok at True Crime Unravelled TV. Share this video. Let's make sure that when April 1st comes, the world is watching. For Romica, for her son, for the truth. We'll see you in the next update.
For the first time, we are hearing from the father at the center of a fatal confrontation.
Carlos Smith shared children with two women, and now one of them is charged with murdering the other.
Tia Ewing has been following the story from the very beginning, and she has the latest.
A lot of details came out in court today for the hearing of Quadasia Johnson, including the fact that this was the first time when the shooting unfolded that she allegedly laid eyes on Romica Blackman. We know that she and Romica Blackman, they both have children by the same man. And for the very first time, we are hearing from Carlos Smith. He was the man on the scene when this tragic shooting unfolded. So a lot of information came out in court today. Witnesses saying what they saw, but you were there. What's your reaction to what you heard came out in court today?
When I heard it, I'm just looking, it was unbelievable, but I was there. And I know for a fact none of that happened, how they just explained it. But my truth will get out here, and I hope everybody understand. That's really it. I can't even say too much right now. Because it's just gonna feel like I'm going against them, they going against me, we just going back and forth. But the truth is gonna come out.
Well, let's walk through this. So on September 8th, investigators say Johnson and the father of her child were near his home. They drove Johnson to 20 West Cermak, where her car was parked. They placed their 6-month-old into Johnson's car in the back seat. Around the same time, Blackman had just dropped off her son at a nearby school and drove back to the area where Johnson and the father were. Witnesses told police the women argued. They reported the father pushing Johnson away and Blackman standing with her arms crossed. They say he then slammed a car door on Blackman and also put her in a chokehold. Prosecutors say Johnson broke free, and that is when, or I should say Blackman broke free, and that is when Blackman was shot once. And then that's when they say Johnson paused, then fired 2 more times. Police recovered 3 9mm casings there at that scene. Johnson legally owned the gun and claimed self-defense. Prosecutors say Blackman was unarmed. Her son turned 7 days after the shooting and is still asking to this very day, where is his mother?
Carlos may be hurt for the rest of his life, but we make sure he see rainbows in his clouds. Okay? Nothing will ever change about that. There is nothing he needs that we cannot provide. He is perfectly well. He is happy. He is thriving. And even when he feels his lowest, we pull him out of it together like we do with each other. He a superstar like his mom, and he's going to show her better than he can tell her.
As for Smith, he says he has not seen his son since the shooting unfolded, the son that he has with Romica Blackman. We did learn today that Quadasia Johnson is 7 weeks pregnant. She did ask for leniency from the court, hoping that she would be able to attend her trial going back and forth from home. We do know the judge did not allow that. As for her, she will be back in a courtroom come December 23rd. From the Greater Grand Crossing neighborhood, Tia Ewing, Fox Chicago.